Hi, my name is Megan Atuvle, and I make interactive floors and walls for a living. And one of the things that my company does as part of our service with the interactive floor and wall software that we offer is provide free development services for not-for-profits and schools. So in this week's tutorial, I'm going to give you an inside look on what the process is when you're requesting a free app be added to the LumoPlay library, how we look at your request, and how we turn it from an idea in your head into a fully functioning game entirely for free. Let's get started. This video should give you a really good idea of what the process is when you make a request to have a game added to the library. Now, for a lot of these effects, they're fairly simple and we don't have to do a whole lot. It's usually people coming to us and saying, I like this game but a different version, or I'd like to add a longer leaderboard or a feature to an existing game. But in this case, the game that was requested was quite complicated. So I'm going to show you start to finish how this happens. First of all, you do need to be a LumoPlay subscriber, so you would have one of the two licenses. Generally, we get most of our requests from Playground subscribers, and Playground is our at-cost license for education and small businesses and not-for-profits. So it's a fairly low cost license, and you can, once you have that license, you can request new apps for the library. So if there's anything that you would like to see added, it just has to be something that other people can use too. So it can't be something with your logo, and there are some rules for requesting an app or game. If you want to make a request, you go to our help section. So this is our help center, and just click on the community tab. And that will take you to all of the community features that we offer. So there's a general discussion where you can just ask for advice or talk about what you'd like to see added to LumoPlay. But if you have a very specific request, then you would put your request either under the game ideas, the Motion Maker template ideas, or feature requests if it's a general feature for the app itself. If you go into the game ideas, the very first pinned post explains how to suggest a game and tells you what types of games are eligible. So that's a good starting point if you're looking at recommending something or requesting something. And the request that we're talking about is this color coder request, which it has taken us 10 months to make this game because it is a very complicated game. The requester gave us a brief description, and then I asked him to send me a PowerPoint storyboard kind of demonstrating what he wanted in this game because it is complicated, so I wanted to make sure we were both on the same page. This is the PowerPoint that he sent. So the general idea of this game is that players select shapes that they think will be part of a sequence. And the goal of this game was to help children understand sequencing. It's a very necessary skill if you're doing a STEM program of any sort, but also just in life, it's good to be able to recognize patterns. When we looked at this, one of the first things that came to mind is that using a live video feed like this in an interactive wall experience requires a very specific camera. So that automatically disqualifies it as a free app because anything that we make for the library has to work with all the cameras we support. So we came up with a proposal to make a game that meets the requirements of teaching sequencing without that live video feed. And I created a storyboard and kind of a storyline for this game that gives you a treasure situation. So you're a pirate and you're inside a treasure cave and you need to complete the sequence in order to get your treasure. And every time you get a level correct, the difficulty increases. Also, I wanted all the shapes to be randomized, and I wanted to come up with some fun animations and sounds to encourage players to play for longer, and a life system so that the game does end at some point and it doesn't just go on forever. And also, like all of our games, I wanted it to have a session-based leaderboard so that when you're playing it in a classroom, you can have the children play and the high score is saved, so it encourages a little bit of healthy competition. From there, I proposed this, and the person who requested the game was very happy with it. So I took it into Illustrator and I started mocking up some of the final graphics for the game, and then I also created a whole set of shapes. Because the other thing that I identified in the original requester's idea was that all the shapes were fairly basic, so it's really easy just because you start learning things like circles and triangles and squares when you're starting to learn to speak. So it's very easy for your mind to ingest and recognize those patterns. I thought it would be a lot more effective and a lot more applicable to coding if all of the shapes were kind of unrecognizable and not easily associated with other things that you have memorized. So this is the shape set that we came up with for this game, and all of these shapes get added more and more. Colors start changing, the colors start repeating as the game gets harder, and that makes this game a lot more challenging than it would have been if it had just been confined to primary colors and rectangles and diamonds and circles. So that's kind of how we approached this. From there, these assets were given to a work placement student. We take a few students every year and get them to work on some element of game design. And he created animations and a whole set of different transitions for the game. And from there, it went to Curtis, who is our lead developer, and he programmed it and we play tested it a bunch. So this game is now ready to release, but just so that you have sort of a inside view into how these things get made and how they can go from, your simple ideas, so something that is sent to us in the form of a PowerPoint and a concept, all the way to a working game. If you have any ideas, let me know. I really like making these. This is the game that we ended up making, and it incorporated all of the changes that we thought would make this game super fun and really playable. So there's a couple different ways that you can play this. You can play it with a ball, which is my preferred way, but since I'm holding a microphone, I'm going to play by just waving in front of things. So we'll leave that ball. There's a bunch of different UI elements on this final screen. One is a countdown timer, and as that timer counts down, you're penalized by the treasure chest closing a little bit at a time. So if you go very quickly and you get the right answer right away, you will get more coins, and that will ultimately lead to a higher score. And there's also a life system so that the game will eventually end if you make too many mistakes. So every time you get a wrong answer, you lose a heart. And then there's the point system at the top that shows you how many coins you got in the end. And the game keeps a leaderboard so you can save the high score per session, which is great for encouraging kids to try and improve their score and also play against one another. So the way that this game works is you get a pattern up here and you have to choose what you think will complete the pattern. And so I think that it's going to be 2 blues, pink, 2 blues, and then pink, because that's really, given the shapes that you're given, the only thing that makes sense as a repeating pattern. So we'll choose that. And that was a relatively easy one. We'll see if it gets harder. Every 4 correct sequences, you will get an extra shape added to the sequence. And all of these are randomized, so no 2 games will ever be the same. So I'll show you what happens when you get a wrong answer, because it's not too harsh and it doesn't punish the player too badly, because the point of this game isn't, it's not a sports game. The point of this game is to encourage you to take time to think about your answer. So if you get the wrong answer, if you choose something that is incorrect, you'll lose a heart and you'll get the option to make that mistake again. And so this allows the players to have kind of a set number of choices, and it encourages them to remember the choices they made as well as the pattern that they're looking at the top of the screen that they're trying to fill out. So I'm very happy with how this game turned out. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have any questions or any ideas, please leave them in the comments. And if you want to get a hold of us, you can reach me at info@lumoplay.com and I will answer you right away. So yeah, I hope to hear from you, and I really, really, really hope that you enjoyed this week's tutorial and that it inspired you to share your game ideas with us so that we can add them to our public library. I'll see you next week with another tutorial.